Well, it's wonderful to be with you here on Mother's Day. As a mother and a grandmother, I feel like I'm probably quite well prepared to speak about Mother's Day. I'd also just like to speak about the fact that this community is really a thriving, shared leadership, amazing community. We had a fabulous fashion show with, I think when they sort of the ask went out, it was something like, Reverend Tammy said, I think I need something like 38 volunteers. I looked, not very long after to see, what maybe I could do. Nope, all positions were filled. Del Delkey this is her second fashion show that she's coordinated, and when I grow up, if I ever should choose to, I want to be like Del. But what's so great about Del is she is a community unto herself. She said, I'm calling in my girls, I'm calling in my friends and the guys too. I'm calling in the girls and the guys, and they're all going to help me. They're going to donate, they're going to be like Gail, who comes and helps set up and encourages us. The photographer who came and dressed and modeled, Les, who was very willing to put on a suit and help us down the stairs. I asked my granddaughter if she would come. At Del's suggestion, I asked my granddaughter, who's 15. She's not a fashion queen. She's a no makeup, fit teenager, and for me, she said yes. But together, we both were, we did it from a place of kind of courage. But the warmth of the audience made us feel we were stars. And so I sent her a thank you the day after the fashion show to say, thank you, Katie, for being really willing to step out and do that with me. It's something I'm going to remember my whole life. And I said, and you can put it in your portfolio. She's in grade 9. You can put it in your portfolio, fashion model, along with marathon runner. And she's also a swim instructor trainee. She's also doing that. So she sent me back a little note. She said, Grandma, I had fun. So it was great. So we had that. And then we had, the men's group was here too this weekend. And I guess I should tell you why I'm speaking. Saturday I heard that our fearless leader, Reverend Cliff, wasn't feeling well. And he's healthy, and so he wasn't going to come and infect us all or come sick. He's looking after himself today, which is great. So we had a strategic planning workshop all day yesterday afternoon without our fearless leader, and we brought in a community development unit facilitator, and about 15 of us looked at our long-range 3-year plan for this community of the things that are really important, foundational kinds of pieces. We believe in shared leadership. We know that to put one person responsible for the multitude of things a community wants to do, for the multitude of things we want to learn and what we want to teach, we know that we need to share that responsibility. And in doing that, we receive the gift of our own personal transformation and learning. And you receive the gift of knowing that in this community, you can develop your skills and you can have opportunities to lead and volunteer training, to be on the board, to serve on committees. All things that when my husband and I, Norm and I were younger, really gave us a lot of professional confidence and skills in our professional work life. So I really believe in shared leadership. I'm talking about Mother's Day, and my segue really is that I had a very traditional mother and father. We lived on a farm. My mother did everything. Huge garden, milked the cows, drove the tractor, helped my dad shovel grain, tossed bales, had 5 kids, did all the cooking, did all the cleaning, did all the, I would say, sort of did the overview. She was the umbrella. She held space for this family. My dad was a great dad, but I don't think she actually gave him much opening to step in. She was resentful, but I don't think she actually knew how to let him in to participate. I don't think she ever did the ask. I think in that generation, and probably mine too, we felt they should charge in an offer. I mean, and our pride would not let us ask. Well, maybe we were afraid of being turned down. I don't know, but that's the way it kind of was. Can you identify with that? You young things probably can't. But in raising my own kids, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a householder. That's what the Asians often say. You know, the man sometimes is a householder, the woman's a householder. So yes, she holds space at home. She's kind of the mentor of the children's development. She's, you know, does all the cook and bottle wash kind of stuff too. But you can't do it all. Just like you can't be one person running a community like this and do well. You can't really do it all. So it never feels very satisfying. It has wonderful moments, but overall, I would say, we often feel like we miss the target more than we hit it. It's a tough job. But now, in my generation, yours probably too, then women started to work out in the workforce too. But did we give up the role in the house? No, we couldn't figure out how to do that. We couldn't kind of figure out how to do that. So it was a dance. And it was hard on the men because they just weren't sure either what they were supposed to do or not supposed to do. And men have been given a very strong, stern kind of archetype that says, you know, stay over here in your corner. You're doing this. You know, you got the sword and you're defending the family and you're bringing in the money, but you're not necessarily just sitting up at night with the crying children. You know, that kind of thing. So there was a time in our marriage where that became a real tough spot. I was working in a very demanding job, lots of emotion, lots of hours, and we have teenage boys. And yes, when they wanted to make money, they did the house cleaning. So they learned to clean the house just because they wanted money to go out at night, and so I had to give it my housekeeper and let them be the housekeeper. It only lasted, you know, maybe 3 months, and then they were not so keen. They wanted to do one room a day rather than the whole thing ever clean, so it never was all clean. So they ended up getting fired a lot. But they also learned to cook because there was no mom at home kind of making the lunch and whatnot, and so they were pretty darn good at coming home and going to the deep freeze and pulling out probably a steak and defrosting it and, you know, barbecuing and maybe having a friend over. Well, mom and dad are over. Yeah, so we had a little chaos at our house for a while. But then we found this center. And it's a whole new toolbox, a whole new way of looking at life, a whole new thought for me. And we raised our kids in the United Church, and we went to church every Sunday. And I told them they had to get confirmed before they could stop going to church. That's the kind of mom I was. Anyway, came here, we couldn't figure out what the message really was, for sure. What was God? And how did science work in it all? So we took classes. We took classes for 2 years, and I went right through practitioner and ministry, and partly was because I loved to learn, and it was transforming our life as a family. It was certainly transforming me. It was making me an excellent, I think, administrator, CEO in my work. I worked with families who had children with disabilities, and they had really significant disabilities. There's a whole women, like, I don't know how many women. Our budget was like a $2 million budget every year, and it was monitored by Alberta Education. Sandy Roberts was one of my coaches and mentors. Yeah. Small world. Yes. So Mother's Day. What do we do with Mother's Day? So Cliff, I'm just going to confess, I haven't told Cliff this. I'm only telling you. Don't tell him. He had a ritual for Mother's Day. If you were here last year, you were probably part of the ritual for Mother's Day. And I have to say, he said to me, Catherine, give the talk, and you don't have to worry because it's a ritual. Okay, sounds easy. Oh, it's a ritual. Okay, he went out to Elk Island National Park. He picked up buffalo hair. It's a mystical story he's got. He's going to tell it to you next week. But anyway, he brought back these little pouches that contain buffalo fur that he gave out to the men on Father's Day last year. So you may already have one of those. And I was intending to do the ritual. But you know, I'm also taking this class. We just finished taking the class with Cliff and with many of you. And this is what he was teaching us. Check in with your body. Do you feel yes in this moment? step into it? Is it a yes for you? No, it was a no for me. The ritual? No. But I talked to my husband. Well, no, I'd say too. He was like, you know what, Catherine, do your own thing. It's okay. Talked to some my women friends, my counseling women friends, here yesterday at Strategic. They all supported my fact that I could somehow give you a talk with one evening's preparation. Usually I spend a couple of weeks. And pull it off. They guaranteed me I could do that. So here we are. So the other thing I want to tell you is, we have a women's circle here of about maybe 40, 50 women that come. There's 70-some women on our list. But each month we have about 45 to 50. We talked about the mother archetype. So it's a pattern that Jung has looked at, kind of the patterns. There's a masculine archetype, a father archetype. There's the mother archetype. And you know what the mother archetype is. She's endlessly giving. She's endlessly unconditional love. She's probably beauty, too. She's fertile, as in that she's a life creator. She transforms things. She's a guide and a mentor. She's part of the earth. She's evergreen and ever-giving. We talked in small groups with each other, and we shared as a big group, kind of our own experience of being that mother archetype and how close we came. And we got the whole divergent of, women who choose not to be mothers, women who have not been able to be mothers, women who, have not found the right relationship, women who were too young to be mothers, women who were mothers when they were too young, we got the whole gamut. And because we are a safe, solid, whole space group, women were safe to share, if they chose to, their own take on that mother archetype. So we're going to take our own take on the mother archetype too on this Mother's Day. To say to you, and I'm saying to you, for this is my own reality. I have 3 sons. We have 3 sons. I've been married for way more than 50 years. To the same person, of course. We've gone through thick and thin. And Norm and I cook every Sunday for our children and grandchildren. It's about 12 to 14 people that come every Sunday, and we cook together in the kitchen. When we started out, that wasn't something that we were doing. Over the years, we have transformed our relationship and our roles. Our sons are the main cooks. The 3 sons each are the main cook in their household. They always do the dinner, and they pretty much are the only people who know how to cook. The girls really don't. We are in love with the women they married. We've gone into their homes and encouraged the girls to continue with their professions when they had children. They were home for the first year on mat leave. Norm and I went into the home and looked after the children 2 days a week, the 2 younger ones especially, until the kids were in school. And because we were old and couldn't be retired by then, because we started in our 20s. We started in our very early 20s when we were married. So their homes are a real sign of what the future, it's not what my mother had, it's not what we had when we started out, but it's the new world. Women are out there giving their gifts to the world. Men are home too, giving their gifts to their children. Being compassionate. Being a wonderful listener. Being a great encourager. This morning, my son yesterday, I was here at Strategic Planning, my oldest son sent a message and said, "Mom, I'm making breakfast. Can you come for breakfast this morning for Mother's Day?" He does this every year. I said to my friend, "I haven't got a talk ready. How am I going to go and do breakfast?" And she said, "Well, you might have to miss it." And I thought, no darn way am I missing this. Breakfast is just there for me. So we went for breakfast before we came here, and he made a really beautiful gourmet breakfast. There is something happening in this world that is wonderful. I do think that we are transforming our culture. I think all we really need is a bunch of role models and a lot of permission that tells us that we don't have to do it this way, there's a multitude of ways to do life. Men are missing out by not being at home more with their kids. Women are missing out by not being out in the world giving their gifts and learning. And there's so much praise and encouragement out in the world. It's lonely and tough being at home by yourself raising kids. Kids are, I read this somewhere, kids are like raising little dictators. And it's just so hard to be the adult all the time and not be a kid yourself, isn't it? I mean, it's a tough road to hoe to be a mother stuck at home with a couple of kids that are rambunctious and where, they're kind of bored. But if you're going to play with them all the time, what's going to happen? The house is going to be a wreck. The laundry's not done. But I play with my kids, and so, my poor husband would come home to blocks all over the place, nothing ready for dinner. And he was tired. He'd been up probably and got to work by 7 o'clock or 7:30. So it's hard to be a human being. And it's hard to be a spiritual being in a human body sometimes because we end up being so darn human and so little of the spiritual. I find this community, what I love about this community is kind of like, it's like that fashion show. Katie and I walked out feeling quite self-conscious, a bit afraid and uncertain, but you held us. People clapped and encouraged and smiled, so we walked out of there feeling like, oh my, the goddesses, in spite of the fact, Grandma's a little overweight, Katie's a little, nervous, but we just felt like such a great success. And I felt like out in my work world, I felt like that too. The women in my work world reminded me of my gifts, reminded me I was enough, constantly gave me positive feedback. I came to this center and they said, you are the divine in human form. You are spirit expressing. What are the qualities of spirit that you want to express? Compassion, kindness, inner peace. How do you get there? Well, spiritual practice. It's noticing what you're thinking. It's recognizing you're not your thoughts. You can change those thoughts. It's recognizing that this feeling that's welling up in you that's painful, you're not your emotions. You can simply let yourself feel it and let it go. You can, remind yourself that you're not even the good things you do, that you're never going to be good enough to fill that sort of inner hole. That comes from actually practice of remembering that you're here as a spiritual being having a human experience. And there's waves in this world. There's waves. I can remember in my work, just, we went through lots, but if you have a little kid that's got a lot of issues, a lot of medical, a little crisis, you're young, of course, it's really, it's a tricky life. And what really helps is when someone says, you can tell me, talk to me. And there's no advice often, there's nothing we can really do, but just having someone to hold space for us when we're going through this means everything. And we weren't really taught how to do that, were we? But here, we're given some of those tools. I mean, I paid a lot of money to see a psychologist through my sort of 40s when I was going through that whole transition of work and home and probably midlife stuff. And the combination of a psychologist, a bit of Al-Anon maybe too, because they also, the guy who started this teaching, Ernest Holmes, and the guy who started AA were friends. And so you'll see there's a lot of same kind of message. There's a lot of messaging that's very similar. But it's a healing message. It's a transforming message. It's a you are enough message. It's a message that says, when you are in your darkest, drowning spot, that's where you're open. That's when you're teachable. That's when it's very possible, if you get to work and open yourself up to say, I'm ready to learn some other way of dealing with this, that the magic happens. That's what transformation is. It's saying, I am now eating poison, and I feel it. But if I just take a little bit of this and work with it, it can actually become medicine that heals my life. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Well, that's because you've been there too. That's why it makes sense to you. But when you're with a bunch of people like this community is, and we're willing to say, I'm not perfect. I've had some really troubled times in my life. I've really needed help sometimes, and sometimes too proud to say that I was a mess. But in all of this life, I think our teachable moments really are those times when life is the toughest, when we're probably feeling that we're the weakest and least able. Those are the times when if you've got a community like this, that somehow the message comes through. Somebody says something to you in passing. You're in a class and someone speaks from the heart about something that they're feeling is a little broken. And the whole class, you can just feel it. Everybody opens up. You shift right into a whole new place of falling in love. Our mothers didn't teach us, I don't think, that in our wounded places, in the places where we've actually made a big mistake, those are actually the places of where the greatest opportunity lies to transform. I remember one time, I hate to tell the stories of my kids, but one time my two kids did something that was really quite illegal. And I was shocked, and my ego was like really upset, and I didn't want anybody to know. And the minister's wife was the person who told me that this is what had happened. Oh my God. But you know, I said, kids, of course I didn't want to confess to it, that's how it goes too. Kids, it's okay that happened, it's what you're doing next that's important. What are we going to do next? So here's some ideas. You can go and apologize, as in you can. You can take stuff back. You can pay whatever price that they've asked to compensate. Okay, you know, the nice part is my kids trusted me. And so they were willing to kind of walk through the fire a bit with me, and they trusted that actually I was going to lead them to a safe place and probably not abandon them. So they went and did all their repair work. And they finished all their repairs, and I could just tell they were free of it then. We went out for ice cream. I celebrated the fact they had the courage to face up to what they've done. They were real little kids. And, you know, it then became a wonderful kind of bonding moment between us. So many times, if you're like me, and I can tell I've dropped the ball somehow, it's just easy to somehow think I don't need to, I'm going to just try and put it, I'm going to kind of walk over top of it somehow. Maybe we can call it spiritual bypass. I'm not going to actually do the work of saying, what's for me to learn here? Can I still love myself even though I have done this? Am I still lovable? It really helps if you've got a circle. For me, it's a circle often of women who keep reminding me that I'm enough. They keep reminding me that they too have walked through dangerous waters and sometimes felt they were drowning and sometimes didn't respond in the most perfect way. And I realize when they tell me that about themselves, I love them. I have absolutely no trouble forgiving them. I can still see that light of the divine within them. I still know all is well, that they're redeemable. There's a power for good, and it's in us. There's something in us that you can just feel it in this room when we're together. You can feel it in a lot of Cliff's talks, where the room sort of silence, and we all fall into the, oh yeah, I know what that is. And we don't usually talk about those things, do we? You know, we try to pretend that we've got it together. But it's in the not having it together, but being willing to learn that our power lies. It's that quiet moment of meditation or contemplation when all of a sudden this brilliant little other way of looking at things falls into place. And if we've got the courage to listen and follow it, magic happens. Big magic happens. One of my dearest friends, my mentor, she was a psychologist. We've done therapeutic journaling together, her and another friend, for many, many years, where we bring out, anything that sort of comes to the surface, and we journal about it, and we share with each other, and we find the gift and the gems in the writing of the other person. A few weeks ago, she found out that she has a terminal illness. And so this week we visited her in the hospital. We have the other friend who journals with us. And we journaled about her journey to die. The only reason we were able to do that was because of all the preparation work we've done together in life. That we're able to talk about, will we come and sit with her as she's dying? Yes, we will. If she chooses her time of death, will we still not abandon her? Can we forgive her if she chooses that route? Yes, we can. And yes, we'll be there. Do we know anything about being a death doula? Gosh, Ash is a death doula, this wife. Let's talk to her and have her give us some mentoring on how we can support our friend in these last months of her life. I would not be here talking to you, and I certainly wouldn't be the woman I am, the person I am, without this community and what I've learned here with so many of you. There's a power for good in the universe. It's threaded through us. It's always present. It's everywhere in life. It's in nature. We feel it in the spring, when what we thought was dead comes to this brilliant life. We live in a magnificent universe. All those telescopes that they're putting out now that show us the black holes and the AI and what it can do. So much work in neuroscience is telling us about the brain and how they can't really figure out where that vitality that enlivens actually comes from. That tells us that when we think about something, the waves turn to particles. There's magic in this world. This planet is circling around the sun at 800 miles an hour, and we're on it. It's amazing. This little planet is the only one we know of that supports life. It's amazing. We love this planet, don't we? The fires are burning. I hope that even though it looks like trouble out there, that it's really about transformation. That it's really about, this is what it's taken us. Just like in our own life sometimes, where we got the message, but we didn't listen. We got the message and we didn't listen. And finally we hit the wall. Now we're awake. Are we ready to be awake yet? Can we figure out, with our brilliance, how to transform what we're doing with this planet and make it this beautiful sanctuary that we need for our own health and well-being? There's a power for good in us. There's brilliance in us. We know that the people that invented all these things that seem kind of destructive have also got the brilliance to invent all kinds of things that really can give us enough clean water. Make sure that we've got healthy soil. Make sure that we've got clean air. Make sure that the animals and the plants and us can thrive on this planet. That's the kind of mothering I want us all to be involved in. That's the kind of Mother's Day I want to celebrate. The original place of Mother's Day actually came from just around the time of the Civil War in the United States, when a woman said, "I do not want to raise a son that kills your son. I want to create peace between us. I want to be your friend." And so these women gathered and they advocated for peace and disarmament, and they advocated that they did not want their husbands or their sons to be killed, that they wanted to find a peaceful way to live life. That's what Mother's Day started as. It's morphed then into mothers whose children were, sons were away at war, writing home to their mothers, because I think it was one of the presidents encouraged them to write to their mothers on this day. And these women were advocating constantly with elected officials to make it a Mother's Day, but it was a social justice movement. I want Mother's Day back. I think we need to be a social justice movement. I think we need to be men and women together, mothering this world. The last thing I'm going to do to honor Cliff and all the work he's done out at Elkhorn Park, gathering this fur from the buffalo, is I'd like the women to all come forward and take one of these bags, and I'm asking Reverend Tammy if she'll come stand with me. And what our message is, thank you for all that you do for life. Whether you're in a body that's male, or whether you're in a body that's female, or whether you're somewhere in that big continuum of gender, you're loved here. You're welcomed here. And we want you to receive this little message from the buffalo, which says, be grounded in your strength. Be committed to your herd. That's us. Remember that you have a powerful body. You have shoulders that can carry the burdens of life. You have a mind that's connected to the divine mind. You are here to give your gifts, to celebrate the life that you've been given, to mother yourself, to mother each other, and to remember that really there's only one. So I'll just ask the women to come up first, and then I might have enough for everybody, but if you've already got one of these pouches, I'll just maybe ask you to wait for a little bit, because there may not, Cliff depended it to be women, so I'm just opening the box.